is Walter Lemons, and this is, well, my history in sim racing. I started racing in 2009 under my own organization. We organized a championship, with some friends. And from that first race on, my fiercest rival and my closest friend at that time, Christel van Essen, was the one I always had to beat. The game of race was Live for Speed. And from that first season, one thing I really remember clearly was the race at West Hill with the FXO cars. It was a brilliant race, fighting with Christel van Essen, Lewis Seitzema as well. We were fighting with 3-4 cars for the lead all the time. In the end, I won it. It was my first competitive race victory. Of course, the level of skill wasn't that high, but it was a race, a competitive, and I won it. And that's where I really started to get the taste of, of wanting to do it more, wanting to do it more professionally, grow as an organization with my Team Rock Racing, and that's where it started. And sadly, I cannot show you footage from that February race because that's the one and single only race that we lack footage from, actually, in our database from replays from Live for Speed. So, but basically, the first season, it was a bit amateurish, but it was exciting, and in the end, I won it, I believe, with 1 or 2 points difference in the last race, by beating Christel van Essen in, I think, the FBM race at Aston. After our successful public event, we started our championship in Live for Speed with the BF1 at Kyoto Ring National, and I took pole position for the first race. The race, however, got dominated by Christel van Essen after I made an early mistake at the start, finishing just second right behind her. Round 2 saw us take on South City with the XFGs, just 3 cars in this race. And thanks to a great start, I took the first position from Christel van Essen as she had pole position for this race. And I took an early lead quite far into the race, actually. Even though we've raced often before, this was the first direct battle between me and Christel van Essen in competition for the lead. And this is where our rivalry started. We had a fierce battle for a few laps. I was leading the race, of course, but then I cracked under her pressure. First here, where I just merely was able to keep the lead as she lunged from my inside. But just a few laps later, in the final lap of the race, Christel van Essen took her chance by going on the outside for me here, which put me on a completely wrong line on the inside for the next corner. But I went for it. I just had to win this race. And as I did so, this happened. I lost control, nearly smacking the barrier. Actually, I smacked the barrier. She took the lead easily from me and went on to win the race. Then round 3 came along, the FXO race at West Hill. Race footage is not existent, but I do have some footage from the qualifying. And Sarah was setting a blistering pace onto a pole position, which was nearly a second faster than the rest of the field. The race was the most exciting race we've ever raced so far, even outside our competitive championship. It was a battle between me, Christel van Essen, and Lewis Seitzema. That battle went on till the last lap, and in the end of the race, I won. My first competitive victory. even though it was just a small field and the level once more not too high for now. I was so proud, I was so happy, I was now in a chance of the championship. After 3 rounds, we had a standings which looks like this. Round 4 saw the introduction of a new young Top Gun, Dutchie Jr., also known as Anton Ahlers. He started, I think, on 3rd on the grid, but right at the start of the race he passed Christel van Essen for 2nd position and started challenging me, who started from pole position again, and as we came to the first real corner, the hairpin to the left, it was nearly 3 abreast, but I tried to stick to the lead and I went on a blistering pace once again, as you will see here from some onboard. But as the laps went by, Dutchie Jr. Anton Ahlers kept getting closer and closer, and soon the gap was closed. I could see him in my mirrors nearing and nearing. I could nearly feel his breath, as I was again under pressure and made a mistake. Here I touched the wall, and on the oncoming of the straight, he was right on my tail, and I just had to do anything to keep him behind. I tried to do a sneaky line, you know, not exactly in the middle, not exactly on the exact race line, but he couldn't get past here for now. But as we neared the hairpin left-hander, I made a wide exit of this corner. He was beside me, and I had to give up the position. But then he outbraked himself nearly, and Christel van Essen said hello and goodbye, at least he thought so. I went back on the inside, stayed 2nd, and as we went through this difficult chicane, Dutchie Jr., fresh in the lead, made the mistake of his life by as soon as taking the lead, also losing it by making this huge error, nearly taking out me as well, and because of that he dropped back to the back of the field, and also I had Christel van Essen right on my tail again, but luckily she made a mistake there and I just started pushing and pushing. A few laps on, you would think I would have learned from my colleague's mistake. But as you can see, as I enter this corner right here, I'm making a copycat mistake and I just lose it exactly the same way. And as I tried to re-enter really fast and dangerously, I nearly take out Christel van Essen, but luckily she managed to pass by me. And by this, there was only 1 lap to go as she crossed the finish line now. And eventually, of course, there is a gap I could not close anymore. So Christel van Essen would win another race, but she wouldn't set the fastest lap. She would become 1st, I would become 2nd, but youngster Tony Arons, yes, Tony Arons, he would set the fastest lap and become 3rd again. And Dutchie Jr. was lucky to escape with this accident and still be able to finish the race and become 4th. For round 5 we had a quite bigger field. I believe I started 2nd right behind Anton Ahlers, Dutchie Jr. New gun Nicolas Rage was on 3rd. And as we entered the first corner, Nicolas tried to dive on my inside, gave me a little nudge. That kind of got me on the edge to try to run away from him, as we see Christel van Essen actually spinning there in the background. As we entered the chicane, disaster struck. I rolled over. I quickly went to the pits and rejoined the race and started my way to progress through the field. First stop was Evo Star. He seemed to give me an easy go, but he actually tried to lunge past the inside here, only just missing me and giving me a chance to power on forward and end my fight to catch up. Eventually I was in 4th, I believe, and I was catching up to Christel van Essen, who clearly smoked up her tires. So as soon as I could, I put pressure on her to try and smoke them up even worse. And as I did that, this is one of the few times she cracked under my pressure. She braked too late, slid off the track and handed me a 3rd position, as well as opened the door for me to try and catch up with Michal Sikorski, our young Polish gun, but I didn't manage to do so. Dutchie Jr. Anton Ahlers won the race, with a fair distance to the 2nd person, Michal Sikorski. I came home in 3rd, closing the gap in the championship standings towards Christel van Essen. 4th came a surprise. Nicolas Rage, young gun from Germany, Lübeck, managed to finish in his first race in the points. Christel actually managed to finish 5th, but of course was dropping back to me in the championship standings. And Melvin Wittar and Tony Arons finished at a distant 6th and 7th in this race. Round 6 started at Blackwood. I would eventually turn out to be a big disaster for one of the championship contenders. But as the race got underway, Gino van Westerveld, a young talent from the Netherlands, took pole and went into the lead. Christel van Essen was close behind, followed by Lewis Seidsma and myself, As I dove on the inside of Lewis Seidsma, and he clearly gave me room to go to third. On the entry of the next corner, I nearly lost it, and he immediately tried to regain his position, but then himself nearly losing control. As the race went on, Gino van Veld was slowly taking a gap into the lead. Christel van Essen was second, myself being third. Here is a battle between me and Lewis Seidsma, who loses control and only nearly lost the race there, but eventually kept going. Here we see Christel van Essen and Gino van Veld. As you look at Christel now, we switch the camera to me, but now look in the distance ahead of me. There we see Christel van Essen. Poof! And she's gone. She had a timeout in her most important race. This is the second to last race of the championship, and she lost connection. This got me into second position, and without Christel in the race, I was about to lap Melvin Wittag, and then another disaster struck. He clearly didn't seem to notice me, nearly nudged me off, giving Lewis Seidsma a slingshot on the outside past me, getting second position off me. Me being third and angry, I basically lunged both of them on the inside and nearly spun myself, only just able to hold onto the track. I lost position. I was now third, not second, but still in a chance to overtake Christel van Essen in the championship. As I was marching forwards on again, Melvin Wittag, ignoring the blue flags, at least it seemed by them, basically causing me to crash and then even hitting me. In my furious anger at Melvin and myself, of course, I then lost control and nearly ended my race here. Luckily, as I managed to drive on and finally eventually led Melvin Wittag, who actually I should note did not ignore the blue flags. We had a wrong setting in the server, which was not showing the blue flag to anybody, and he was the only one person being lapped, so he didn't notice. Of course, he could have watched his mirrors, you know, but anyways. Gino van Veld won the race, Lewis Seidsma on the second podium, and me third, now in the lead of the championship. It was time for the last race, FBM at Aston. And at this moment I knew if I finished just behind Christel, I would win the championship. Even if she would win the race, if I would be second, I would win. If she would be second and I would be third, I would win the championship. All I needed to do is stay close to Christel van Essen and not make a big mistake. As the race started, there was basically 4 abreast going to the first corner, and I got a little nudge here from Michal Sikorsky, but I luckily kept it on the asphalt and was actually briefly in second as I was side by side with Michal Sikorsky. Christel van Essen being in the slipstream of both of us on the inside now. And as we got into this left-hander, it got a bit too close for comfort with me and Michal Sikorsky, who both didn't want to give up, eventually him steering into me and spinning himself off the track, allowing Christel van Essen through to second position and possibly able to threaten Anton Alex, who was leading the race. And if she would be first and I would be third, that would be a problem for the championship. So I refocused myself and kept on pushing.